Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Adam Ratliff with Adam So Fun, and we are on to week 3 of the hashtag chainlinkqal presented by Pro Stitcher. So this is the chain link quilt. Week 1, you picked out your fabrics. Week 2, you cut your fabrics. Week 3, we're piecing the quilt top. So, and then week 4 and week 5, we will be stitching it out. I know somebody asked, and I couldn't find that, I couldn't find where you asked it because it was on one of the plethora of posts, but there are going to be specific digitized designs that I'm going to be using. If you scroll to the bottom of the pattern, you can see the digitized Pro Stitcher designs that we're going to be using for this quilt. So if you want to quilt it just like me, we'll be using that. The first video we're going to go through, we're going to do some stitching in the ditching, and I'm going to show you some quick ways to have Pro Stitcher do all that stuff. And in the second one, and this will be all Pro Stitcher stuff, I am doing this in conjunction with ProStitcher.com, and my friend Jen over there was like, hey, let's do this together, and I'm like, hey, let's do this together. I love working with her, she's so much fun. So this is our chain link block. I've made 2, and you know, I have the Laura Star. If you are a friend of or if you're a fan of the channel, you know I have the Laura Star. I love the thing, and one of the things that I really liked about it was that you, when I press seams open, I'm not burning my fingers. So I don't like pressing things open. So there's that. I'm not an open presser. I'm not an open presser. I know some of you are, but I was like, I'm gonna press this whole project open. I'm gonna do it. And this block, so this block, I mean, this is the block. These are my colors. This whole block has been pressed open. I didn't burn my fingers, well, I burnt my finger once, but it's because I touched the iron, dummy. But yeah, this whole thing has been pressed open. It is laying flat as a board. I love it. I am loving my color choices. I'm sorry, I think I did a good job, whatever. But I am loving my color choices. But this is that chain link block. The normal piecing of these units, super easy. You have 2 squares, you're gonna sew them together, so on your next piece, so on your next piece, so on your final piece. You get these units. You should have 4 of them for every block. So depending on how many you're doing, I have 12 blocks, so that's 12, I have 48 units. If you need to see how to cut, you just have to do some math. The pattern tells you you need X amount of these. You need to make 4 blocks, 4 of these for every block. So we're gonna say 4 of these units for every block. And all of these have been pressed open. One thing I did find, because I'm gonna show you how to do the partial seams. That's what this whole video is about. I think all of you can do this, no problems. You're in the clear there. The last thing we have to do is we're gonna take our final blocks, our final squares, and they are getting added to this piece. So they definitely went like go big or go home, Pro Stitcher. You went real crazy on your first quilt along and you have a partial seam. So how we're gonna do these, we have to sew half of it on to this piece. We'll press it down, and then we'll sew on this one, we'll sew on this one, we'll sew on this one, and when we get back to this, we'll sew all of it up to where we've already sewn. This gets funky because this has to be pressed. If you're a presser, I'm a presser, I'm the Laura Star. So when you press this intersection here, it gets a little funky, and I realized that if I press this open, this one little seam here, it works really weird. This seam also, because of how it interacts with this, because these aren't big pieces, especially once you take your seam allowance away. So we're gonna go through this process of the partial seam. I figured I would show that to you. So before we get into the main food, or the main bits of the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when new videos drop. This is my Adam So Fun channel. I don't even know if I introduced myself. I probably did. I don't know. It's been a day. I've been doing a lot of stuff. Oh my gosh, I have some exciting news. You might have already even heard this by the time this video releases, but I did some exciting things today. But Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Don't forget to follow me on social media, Adam's So Fun with an S-E-W on Facebook and Instagram, where you can see all the stuff that doesn't land on the page. I do lives and a whole bunch of other crazy things. I know for those of you who have been a big fan of the channel for a long time, room looks different. I've restyled new furniture, new tables by Classy Creations, and I am loving life right now at the moment. Although I do have to take all of my clutter and bring it back in here because it's in our entryway right now. So without further ado, we're gonna jump over to the machine. We're gonna talk about that first step, and we're gonna go step by step through piecing one of these blocks. All right, so I'm gonna be working on 3 units. I figured I can do it 3 times for you, and then you're gonna know everything. So my blocks have this unit with the navy and this unit with the purple. So I don't know why, but I'm gonna start with the navy first. So I need 3, and for each block, I'm gonna need, or for each of the final blocks, I'm gonna need 2 of the navy and 2 of the purple. So I'm gonna keep 3, I'm gonna put 3 out of the way. I have 6 purple, I'm gonna put them out of the way, because the first step is to sew on our partial seam. So I am going to put this block, it lines up with our center pieces here. Let me see. Can I zoom out? I put you very close. I put you very close so you can see. That's as close as we're gonna get. So this block is going to sit here in the final product, okay? In the final block. So I'm gonna line our edges up. We'll move things out of the way. And I only wanna stitch about halfway. I could even go 3/4. I don't wanna go into my seam allowance here because I'm gonna basically stitch all the way around this until I come back to finish this seam. So my stuff is lined up, I have my 1/4 inch foot, and we're just gonna go sew this one on. So that's about far enough. I will do a back stitch here. I don't usually back stitch, but I feel like for this application I'm going to. Now I'm going to pivot over to the side. I'm not gonna sew that, I just wanna get my fabric out of the way. Pull up my next piece. Line it up. I will needle up. Lift my presser foot a little bit. Just pull my fabric out of the way. Because I don't want to, I can use my knee lift too. I always use my knee lift and, oh, I don't have it on. Oh, I took it off because I was doing something else. All right, so here I go. I'm gonna stitch this one. If you want to back stitch at the beginning, you can do that. There we are, do a little back stitch. My Laura Star just heated up. Lift my foot, pivot out of the way. Get my next piece. Line up my edges. And we're going to needle up, foot up, and stitch onto this one. And this one I might back stitch at the beginning. I'm not a back stitcher, so I'm not used to this. Make sure my edges are actually lined up. I might have went a few steps too far, but that's okay. And now my first 3 are done. So cut so we can tie off. Or tie off button. Now I'm going to trim them apart. I put those new tables in here. I had to clean out the room. And I don't know where my blade savers are. So now I have this funky looking block here because this isn't even sewn on all the way. Let's do one that I didn't sew so far. This isn't even sewn on all the way. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, oh, I missed a thread, trim. There we are. What we're going to do is we're gonna take it to our iron. We're gonna press this over. And now, and let's see, oh, I wonder if I can just finger press this. And press it later. There we are. And then this piece is going to come along and it's going to line up with that block. Oh, you can see everything. Good. So there we are. So this piece is going to come on. Let's see if we move those that way. And it's going to line up with the rest of that block. And so when I stitch this seam, then everything will line up. We'll bring the next blue one over. This one has a block on it. And then this seam will line up, and then we're gonna put the next purple one. This seam will line up. And then, and that's why we didn't stitch all the way, because this is gonna have to be folded over. and we'll stitch all the way across here. And then we'll come back and finish that last one. So let's go over to the iron and let's press these. All right, here we are. Here's my piece. I've just added that one little block. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take that little piece and press that out. Oops. Because I just need my flat edge here. So there's one, there's two. I mean, I think you're all very good pressers. So press however you like, but there's our first two blocks. All right, so we have our 3 pieces. I'm gonna pull one out. And this is what it's going to look like. It's gonna look weird because you have just this weird piece out here and you're like, I don't wanna do Y seams. We're not gonna do Y seams. We're doing partial seams because we partially quilted this first piece and now we have this edge that we're gonna line up. So now I'm gonna get my purple piece and the purple is going to head on. Oh my gosh, I got threads everywhere. The purple is going to attach right to this edge. So I find it easiest if I put my purple down, I drop my blue on top, line up my edges. Now, look at this. Look how great of a piecer I am. It's not, I mean, it's not that far off, but if your piecing is, let's see, there we go. If it's not perfect, you know, I'm off a little bit, I'm just gonna like make that seam fit, which is why I put the solid piece down. I'm gonna pop on my first corner and I will line this up and I'm gonna start a few stitches. And this is how I always quilt because you know what I say? At the end of the day, it's just a quilt and we wanna have a good time. So, stitch a few stitches. Once I stitch a few stitches, I'm gonna slide this up so you can see it. There we are. I wanna make sure this edge lines up. So, I'm going to line these 2 corners up. There we are. That's lined up. Now I just am going to bring it down. You can't see my hand, but those corners are lined up. I'm gonna make sure it's nice and taut. And now everything on my seam is lined up nice and I'm making it fit. Just like as in long arm quilting, if you find a mistake in a block, you say you're gonna quilt it out. In piecing, I'm gonna quilt it out. I'm gonna let my feed dogs do the work. And is this the correct way and am I winning awards? No. Does it work for me? 100%. Will it work for most of you? Yes, because you're gonna message me and go, oh my gosh, I do the same thing. I love that you showed that. And I also didn't use any stabilizer on this. This is connecting threads and they don't use any sizing in their dry goods. So you can get some an extra little peels and stuff and such. So when I press it, usually I press it with a starch alternative and it will take care of a lot of that, but I forgot because I was making videos. So I'm lining up my edges. Here, we'll do it there. So here's my first edge. Here's my second edge. I'll pivot. Oh my gosh, that's the 3rd time I've used the pivot reference for you friends people. Stitch a few stitches. Make sure everything's lined up and stitch my seam. I'm like, my machine is going so slow. I was free motion quilting on it, shocker. And I turned it down because I had it set too high. There we go, and let's do one more. I'm going to bring over my purple. There we are. I'm going to line up my funky edge with my extra little square that's hanging off there like it shouldn't be. Pivot. Stitch a little bit. Make sure everything else is in line. And go to town. Gorgeous. So now let's go to the presser. Let's go to the ironing board and we'll press these out. We've added our second piece and this is actually the easier pressing. We're just gonna, I always set my seams. Put them in. And press. Careful not to catch, careful not to catch this edge because you don't want to press this over. Because because remember that seam is partial. Alright. And you could press these open. I find that pressing them open didn't work as well as just everything else is pressed open except for these seams. All right, we're back with our bigger unit. Let me pull one over so you can see what it's gonna look like. So here's our original one. Here's our original block. We added the one piece. We added the purple one side. Now we have a new side that we can work with. This is gonna be another navy. So same way we added the purple. I'm grabbing the navy block, line up my block edge. There we are, there we go. Turn and stitch. Make sure my corners line up. This one looks good. Line my edges up and stitch it all the way off. So they call it a partial seam block because this first piece, you partially stitch it on. And the last one, these are all gonna be pretty easy. Once you get the first one, or once you put your block on, all of them are pretty easy until you get to that last, the one after this, the next purple one, it's a little bit funky. But we'll get there and we'll show you. Let's see. Make sure everything lines up. One more. Get my navy block. If you're doing it scrappy, you just have to grab a block off the stack. That's nice. You don't have to pay it. Oh, I just shifted it. You don't have to pay attention to what colors you're using, except for your backgrounds. There we are. Now let's go to the pressing, the iron. Okay, so now we have our third piece, and again, just normal press. We're going to set my seam and go. I do have my iron sucking those pieces on. The Laura Stars can blow, see how everything floats up. And if I hit the steam, you can kind of see the steam coming back at me. If I hit my button at the front, it's gonna suck that steam down. It holds those blocks in place. So I find that it's just gonna hold everything down a little bit better. It doesn't move. You get nice flat seams. If I have a fabric that's extra wrinkly, I will hit that button, have it float up, and just kind of hover and steam the heck out of it because it shoots the steam through it and then it comes back, and then I suck it down, and then I will steam iron it again. And because it's that dry micro steam, pieces are nice, super flat, and they don't feel damp. They don't feel wet. So there's our third piece. All right, so now I have this block. We can see where we started. Original piece, added the pink, added the blue, and so now we have this weird corner, okay? This is where you're like, Y seam, I don't want to do that. We're not, so like I said, we're not doing a Y seam. This is going to come and fit in like that. Let me see, I gotta move that away. There we go. That's gonna come in and fit in just like this. So again, I'm gonna put my colored block down, my straight edge. And when I was pressing, I showed you how I kind of anti-press this. We're gonna fold, I'll move this over some. So this is the block upside down. I'm gonna fold this back. There's my extra. I'm gonna flip this seam allowance over, all right? Because this is the full length of that edge. Line up my corner. This one I got a little close. There we are. Turn. put that. This is where stiletto is great. This is my Sawyer Creek stiletto from Sawyer Creek Artistry. Seam ripper on one side. It was out because I was seam ripping. Not this quilt, before. And I can use my stiletto to hold that corner in place. There we go. Drop this. And I'm going to take a stitch or two. There we are. Now I'm going to make sure my seam lines up. And just shift that over. Check my lines. And now I can stitch down this whole edge. There's one. We'll do that again. Get my purple piece. Oops. Bring over my block. Here's the edge I'm looking at. Fold this down. Oh, I think I got these ones a little close. I should have maybe gave myself more than 3/8 of an inch. There you go. And stiletto, turn. That shifted. So don't do an atom. Give yourself some more room here. Why did I do this to myself? Because I'm a masochist. There we go. Take a few stitches. Line up my bottom. Line up the rest of my seam and go. One more time. Grab my purple. Line up my piece. Look, I gave myself more here. This is going to make it so much easier on my life. I can line that up. Fold this over. I didn't line it up very well. There we go. There we go. So that's going to work. We're going to fold that back. Stiletto. Why did I put my stiletto up? There we are. A few stitches. Line up my edge. You can see my needle stops down. I always have my needle stop down. I don't know why. No, it holds everything still. And what happened to my scissors? I took my scissors somewhere and they're not here. Cut. Use my teeth. So now it's gonna look like our block is all done, except we have this very last seam. And this is, well, I'm gonna go press, but we just have to stitch this seam, and really it's just folding it over and stitching up to the line. I could, honestly, if I finger press that now, I'm gonna try something. I don't usually do it like this. But because I haven't pressed it, it's gonna hold everything together really nice. I might just try to stitch this. Let's try some with and some without pressing. So this is not pressing. I just cut it and went. And there's my seam, so I know where I need to go. And I will backstitch here. Cut. Oh my gosh, I think I like that better than pressing. This is gonna be, let's see. Because that looks straight, that looks flat. That's all straight. That's all straight. I think it's just gonna be a matter of pressing it. This interaction might be a little weird. So we'll see whenever I actually press it, because if that goes there, well, no, that looks good. I think I might get a little, you might get a little puff in the center if you do it like that, because this wasn't pressed totally flat, so I might not have got the very edge. I don't know. I got to take it to the iron. The lower side is going to press that out anyway. All right, let me go press these two, and then I will come back and show you that last little bit having been pressed. All right, so here's our fourth piece. It's the final one before we do our final seam. This is a little funky because of how this interaction is. So what I just realized when I was doing this live, I'm gonna try to press this the opposite way. So I'm gonna hit, oops, I got caught. I'm just gonna hit that there. I think that's what I want to do. Yep, that is exactly what I wanted to do. That's gonna kind of get this piece out of the way, and I'm gonna press this one up. Careful not to hit there. I don't want to put a crease there. We're gonna move this way. So now when I fold it, I can kind of work this, check it, and then I will come back and kind of anti-steam this, steam it the opposite way. So it lets me lay everything nice and flat, and then I can just come stitch the seam until I get to my stitch lines. Here are the two final done. This is the not pressed yet. You can see it's kind of fluffy and puffy. This is pressed except for this seam. I'm still gonna set that seam. I'm a seam setter. And what I was saying earlier is usually I wanna press that way. I'm gonna try to press it the opposite way. I'm gonna try to press it this way. And we're gonna see how this works. It might not work, I might not like it. But I also might like it and might do the rest of them this way. Oh my gosh, I think I love it. Steam the heck out of it. OMG, look at that, baby. Nice. So there is a chain link block. Let's press the one that hasn't been pressed yet. I will set this seam. And I will come set this seam. This is going to be a little bit funky because I don't want to hit this because this one's ultimately going to get pressed the opposite way. So, turn my block there. And reset this seam. And now, open it up. There. So I have to say, where's my other block? I feel like pressing, so this one was pressed before I stitched that last seam. I feel like this square is much more square than the other one. I feel like it's a little bit angled, funky, weird. Something is awkward here. But in the grand scheme of things, we're never going to notice that because we're going to stitch it and we're going to long arm it and we're going to quilt it out. But just so, because it did make it easier to just stitch it without having to come press it. But I feel like this doesn't get the definition that I wish it would have. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. So we'll see you back here in a second. All right, everyone. So that is how to do the partial block. We're going to put our first piece on, press it, add our next piece, press it, add our next piece, press it, add that next piece, press it, stitch up our final edge. And these are the 4 blocks that I have done so far. I said 12, I'm only really doing 9. This is my border, so I laid that out. I am using the 5 different colors, but on my quilt, I'm gonna have one, so like the navy is going horizontal, and then it's gonna go vertical, and then horizontal, and so it's gonna do this, like, basically the blocks are getting rotated every other time. Partial blocks, not hard, something maybe you've never done. Here's the quick little reference on how to do it, and maybe it's something you're gonna fall in love with. I don't know why you would, but at least you know how to do it and you have a quilt that you've done it on. So remember everybody, at the end of the day, it's just quilting. We want to have a good time, right? So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when new videos drop. Go follow me on social media, Adam's So Fun with an S-E-W on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to hashtag chainlinkqal when you're posting pictures. We want to see what you're doing. We want to see what you're working on. So post those pictures and let us know, share, tag me so I can see what you're doing. And you know, I don't know, have fun, enjoy the process. I am loving making this. I am falling in love with quilting some more, even more. And yeah, next week we'll be quilting it out and I can't wait to do that all with you. We'll see you next week for week 4 of the Chain Link Quilt Along presented by Pro Stitcher. Bye guys.